Hi, this is Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull, and this is the Zealot G.
Sleep, the time's not yet.
Well, we began this album. I think the first thing I ever wrote down when I look back at my original notes was 2016. I wrote down some ideas, some conceptual ideas for a future album. And then I went on during the next weeks and months to try and refine that into a definitive album idea and potentially definitive songs. We started recording in 2017, and during a little burst of creative energy, we recorded 7 backing tracks. And during the succeeding months, I then finished off, did the vocals and flute parts on 4 of them, and got those pretty much locked down by the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. Bearing in mind, we're on tour all the time, so the amount of available time to work on an album was not always unfettered. So 2018 was a busy year. 2019 was even more busy. 3 American tours, lots of trips to other parts of the world doing shows. And I had it in mind that, end of 2019 going into 2020, I'd finish off the album, another 5 songs to record, and then, of course, all the mixing and mastering. But then a bad thing happened. The bad thing, of course, was the pandemic hit in January of 2020, and we then were faced with huge numbers of cancellations and postponements of concerts, which is unfortunately still happening even today, although we have managed to get back on the road and do at least a few shows so far. But after thinking, well, this will all be over in a couple of months and we can get back together in the studio to finish the record, that turned out not to be the case, and we were faced with virtually 18 months when the idea of getting together unvaccinated and unprotected didn't seem like a great idea in a small physical space. So it took really until the summer of 2021 to actually really finish the album, and the remaining 5 tracks that we hadn't recorded with the other guys, they were basically recorded by me at home, and then the other guys sent in their contributions, and they were incorporated into the mix because they all have some basic recording facility at their homes to be able to do that. So that really was 2 years worth of time that went by, and it's very frustrating both as a writer and performing artist to go that period of time without really being able to work in the way that I've done for the 52 years prior. It was very frustrating, but great to get the album finally finished, and being somewhat limited by the reality of pressing vinyl records these days with so few manufacturing facilities in the world, that we have to be in the queue, and even jumping the queue a little bit, it's still scheduled for end of January, early February 2022. The album will be available to purchase and be available for me to listen to, because apart from the songs that I've been practicing and playing and even performing on stage, I've forgotten most of it already, because I finished the album 4 months ago now, since I finally pushed it to one side and handed over all the masters, and that was it. So I'm looking forward to having my own shiny little copy on a CD, or no, that's no good. I don't have a CD player anymore. Maybe I'll buy a record player and play the vinyl. What about that? Weird or what? We recorded most of this in a studio, basically out in the country, in a small town, where we found a studio that was very well appointed. It'd been somebody's built, I think, as a private studio, but we rented some time there, and we recorded 7 of the tracks there. The rest were recorded at my home and at the homes of the other guys who sent their contributions in to be incorporated. So it was done very much as in the same way as we recorded the earliest Jethro Tull albums. Bunch of guys in a big room with lots of wires and cables everywhere, and playing it, since it was arranged and rehearsed like it was going to be played live on stage. That was the essence of the way we recorded it. We wanted it to be like a live performance. I mean, if you hear a guitar solo, you're hearing it in the context of the rest of the guitar part. It wasn't overdubbed afterwards. You know, the arrangements are done really like we would play those songs live on stage. And the album, of course, features mostly Florian Opale, who was the guitar player. Florian subsequently, at the end of 2019, decided to follow his other dream in life, which was to run his own recording studio and be a record producer. And so he built a combined recording and photographic studio, since his wife is a professional photographer, and embarked on a new phase of life. And he has been replaced by Joe Parrish James, a young guitar player that we found at the end of 2019. And Joe appears only on one of the latter recorded songs on this album, but you know, his presence is there, and very much there on stage and live performance. So you'll be getting to meet Joe Parrish James on stage in the months and years to come. David Goodyear was the first guy that I worked with who's in the band today, and that goes back, I think, as far back as 2004. John O'Hara appeared a few months later and appeared on one of the solo albums, playing accordion and some keyboards. And Florian Opale, who began playing with me on orchestral shows, excuse me, also goes back to around 2006. And Scott Hammond, drummer, is the new boy, or was the new boy until Joe came along. Scott didn't really take up the Jethro Tull position until 2000, and I think he first appeared with us in 2010, but it was 2011 he kind of officially joined the band. I decided this would be a Jethro Tull album primarily because it was a band album. We set out to make a band album, and it was always intended to be, you know, on the progressive side of rock music, and the band playing live in the studio. You know, it was a band album, and it seemed appropriate since the members of the band have all played with me for, well, 3 of them for 15 years, 1 of them for only 11 years. I mean, this is the longest surviving lineup of any version of Jethro Tull in terms of musicians that we've ever had. So it seemed appropriate to honor the long-standing relationship with this group of musicians by releasing it as a Jethro Tull album. And certainly it wasn't something I would have thought of as being a solo album, just because it did incorporate much more of the band performance ethic of being in the studio recording together. And that was it, really. A lot of water's gone under the bridge since the earliest days of Jethro Tull, but I think all of these musicians can very truly consider themselves really a part of Jethro Tull, the brand name. And that's the brand and the band, you know, are illuminated in this recording, which I hope people will enjoy.